Two girls who were 12 when they allegedly tried to kill their friend. Well, they're now facing trial and they're being charged as adults. The Slender Man case, it's raising a lot of questions.
She was just always such a gentle and kind person.
This morning, Angie Geyser speaking out for the first time since her daughter Morgan was charged with attempted intentional homicide for allegedly stabbing her friend 19 times, all to impress Slender Man, a fictional internet character.
Is there any bleeding going on?
Her clothing has got blood on it.
Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weir, both just 12 years of age when prosecutors say they lured their friend, also 12-year-old Peyton Leutner, into the woods in May of 2014. That's where they stabbed her with a kitchen knife and left her to die. Peyton survived, and now Geyser and Weir are both being charged as adults. The teens appealing that ruling, which could send them to prison for up to 65 years. Geyser now fighting to get her daughter's case tried in juvenile court, where her maximum sentence will be 3 years in a juvenile prison.
You can't hold somebody responsible for the rest of their life for something they did when they were 12.
While Morgan was in custody, she was diagnosed with early onset schizophrenia. It's a condition Geyser says her husband suffers from.
I don't think that there were any glaring, obvious clues that she was ill.
Earlier this month, Morgan was moved from Wisconsin Juvenile Detention Center to a state mental hospital where she is undergoing treatment, something her mother says has helped.
With this lucidity that she's developed comes an awareness of the gravity of her situation. Yeah. So she misses home, she misses her family.
Weir, meanwhile, remains at that detention center on $500,000 bail. The Leutner family tells ABC News if tried as juveniles, there is a likelihood that both assailants would already have been released with little to no supervision and their records expunged. The premeditated attack was with the hope of killing our daughter. We fully support the efforts of the district attorney in this case. You know, Mayo, this is tough. They're 12-year-old kids, but they committed a horrific act, and some 12-year-old kid will be scarred for the rest of her life. It seems that the two choices are too extreme. 65 years to life, and conversely, you know, let out, no record, no supervision, no nothing. Never spent a day in an adult facility for what they've done. I don't think either one equals justice, if that's the right way or right measurement to say.
Well, I think that that's where you need a good, strong legislature. And the legislature can come up with something that would be an appropriate remedy so that you could perhaps even be able to look at things like lifetime parole, lifetime probation. You have the alternative to have different types of monitoring to determine if, in fact, that person should be civilly confined.
But how about time behind bars? 65 doesn't feel right, but at the same end, you know, a couple years in juvie doesn't either. When you stab a kid, you know, a couple dozen times here, leaving you to die bleeding out.
No, I'm a proponent of raising the age, and I tend to think that New York and North Carolina, first of all, are the only two states that are not. But just because you don't go to prison with an adult doesn't mean that you're not confined to a prison. So you can have different prisons where you can still monitor the person without subjecting them to adults.
What are you thinking?
That's the other thing. I mean, you're taking somebody with early onset schizophrenia, putting them in a prison with adults. Can you imagine how they're going to come out potentially more dangerous?
Keep them in a juvenile facility till they're not juveniles. But then, instead of just saying, okay, you're done, go back home to mom, you know, they did a very adult thing.
I agree there needs to be more punishment, but listen, the girl's father has schizophrenia, still has it to this day. For most people, it's a lifelong disease. So if you're putting her in a population with adults who have committed crimes, there's a potential that when the girl gets out, she would be more dangerous. On the flip side, if she's not getting that punishment and she's getting out in 3 years and being tried as a juvenile, there's the same potential that she'll be just as dangerous because she's mentally ill. The problem is that we just don't have treatment and facilities, especially for kids. And, you know, parents can't even involuntarily commit their kids or get them evaluated. And that's ridiculous. I can see if someone's 18.
One of the two kids, though, isn't in a mental institution right now, Doug. One of the two girls is still sitting in juvie. The idea that potentially she gets out, no record, no nothing, no supervision, it doesn't feel again, like that's justice considering a premeditated attack, albeit by a 12-year-old, against yet again another 12-year-old.
Well, the facts of this case were never contemplated by the legislature, and they probably will never happen again like this, hopefully. I mean, you have 12-year-olds stabbing another 12-year-old. There is no possible, there's been no discussion in the law of what we should do with something like that. Maybe going forward there will, because it looks to me, you're absolutely right.
What do you think what does justice feel like to you to hear?
You have everything here. You have mental health issues. People with mental health issues are often thrown out into the population to commit crimes, and everybody wants to say, oh, look how horrible it is.
And also, we said this on the show before, but somebody not watching, to prove an insanity defense is extremely hard, right?
It's like they thought they were stabbing a scarecrow in the field. Instead, they were stabbing a girl. It's not going to happen in a case like this. If there is a mental health issue, it's going to have to be dealt separately from the crime. But you're right. I mean, they stabbed a girl how many times? There has to be some sort of punishment.
Well, all we can look to is that the Supreme Court has ruled that juveniles who commit heinous, heinous murders cannot go to prison for life without parole. They have to have the opportunity for parole. So the justices have said, listen, they do need to be treated differently than adults. And part of the reason why is because their brains are not neurologically developed. They don't have the recognition of actions and consequences, circumstances. They can't weigh things and have the foreseeability that an adult can have.
I think we also have to recognize the fact that most people who are schizophrenic never do things like this. So most people with mental health issues do not go out and attempt to kill anybody or hurt anybody. Quite often they end up in jail because their behavior is out of the norm, and we don't understand quite why they behave the way they do, but they're not harming anybody.
Now, this next topic after the break here, got a good debate this morning in our production meeting. White TV anchor fired for making racially insensitive Facebook posts. Now, she's suing for discrimination, and Notoria says, hey, if she were black, this wouldn't have been an issue. This one raising questions about race as well as the First Amendment.